Where else would you rather be in the Bay Area? Would you rather be in Chicago talking about the Bears right now? Would you rather be in Minnesota talking about the Vikings? Would you rather be in stinking Philadelphia? Where, yeah, you win a lot of regular season games, but you don't win the big one. I know the Sixers rolled over the Lakers, which kind of made my heart warm. Shout out to Kate Scott and his fighting Sixers for beating up on the fraud Anthony Davis and the LA Lakers. Anyway, we can start off in two directions. We got a lot of Clay stuff and a lot of Draymond Green stuff as he makes his return against the Sacramento Kings. But it is Eagles week, and we've waited all week long, all season long for this, Shasky, after we went to Philadelphia last year, January 29th, for the NFC title game, and it wasn't a pleasant experience. But first and foremost, we just got our asses kicked on the field. And you didn't have your best shot because your quarterback got knocked out of the football game because your second tight end failed to block Hassan Reddick. But there's a lot of trash talk going on. And it's obvious that the Eagles feel like they didn't get their due for beating up on the 49ers. And it's obvious that the Niners feel like we didn't have our guy. And if we had our guy, we would have beat you down. So the guy's back in Brock Purdy, and he's playing well as anybody out there. And you know what he's done over the last 4 games, 3 games since the bye week, 61-81, 75% completion percentage, 838 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. And on the other side, they got Jalen Hurts, who went in there and took Carson Wentz's job and became the franchise guy and became their leader. So it's a lot of talk. A lot of talk. You know what? I love it.
Depending on how you break it down, first off, I'm just so pumped up for this week. I've been waiting for this week all year. The crazy thing about it is I still can't believe they hit that kick in the rain. I legitimately can't believe it. Poor Buffalo. Buffalo, I asked you to do one damn thing, is win that game. You're up multiple scores in that game, and you just gagged it away. And Jalen Hurts has done the thing that a lot of people are saying that Brock Purdy can't do. And I'm going to get to Brock Purdy in a second. But like Jalen Hurts consistently has brought this team from behind. Jalen, the variance in play within the same game, he could look so off and then look so good in the same game. He was outstanding in the rain the other day. And I don't want to hear any excuses from the Niners. You've been talking the talk since losing the way that they lost. And look, hey, if I was one of them, I'd have talked that talk too. But Debo, you better put up, because I'm telling you, wrote a lot of checks, and I want to see you come out.
Well, you know what,
Debo, you are the heart and soul of this team. I am expecting you to come through, and you better show up against this team.
Well, listen, number 19.
You better show up.
Better show up. He will show up. Shasky, where you been the last 5 years? Debo Samuel talks that talk, and he walks that walk.
He does.
He talked that talk to Jalen Ramsey, and he got Jalen Ramsey up out the division because Jalen Ramsey didn't want to tackle him. He talked that talk to the Dallas Cowboys. You know what? He backed it up. I'm not worried about Debo Samuel in a game like this. Debo Samuel was about that life. He was born into this. His name is Debo for a reason. He punks people. And he said it yesterday. Yeah, I don't regret a damn thing I said.
I love
back in January. So Debo Samuel, you worried about him backing it up? No. He's going to back it up.
He better show up.
Debo's going to show up.
All right.
When is he not showing up? Let me ask you, when is Debo not showed up for this team? When he's on the football field?
No, that's a good point. I mean, Aaron Donald and him, Jalen Ramsey and him. I mean, go right down the list.
He's backed it up.
He has backed it up, and I'll give you that. But this is different. Philadelphia feels different. And Hassan Reddick saying what he said, it's hard for me to hate on Hassan Reddick. I don't love the Eagles at all. You know that. Don't love the Eagles at all. I don't love calling another player trash or garbage the way Debo did Bradbury. I don't think that, I get it. It's the heat of the moment. I mean, come on, dude. Bradbury's a pretty good football player. Like, anybody to make it to the NFL is a certain level. I get it. It's smack talk. It's crap talk. Like, I understand all that. You got to show up, though. This is different. This is on a bigger stage.
No, Debo has shown up in the divisional round playoff games. He showed up in the NFC title games. He showed up in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. He showed up in every big game that he's playing under Kyle Shanahan. Debo Samuel has showed up.
Well, I would say that in the Super Bowl, they went away from him, and that's why they lost. I mean, if they would have stuck with the jet sweeps and all the end arounds, I think they win the Super Bowl.
So I'm not worried about Debo Samuel showing up. By the way, here's what Debo Samuel said about Bradbury back. It was with Shady McCoy, Brandon Marshall on that Players podcast. It was a Players Tribune podcast.
Yes.
Here's Debo Samuel.
As you go back and look at it, it's just crazy. Kind of like you stated, even talking to Kyle about it during his career of coaching, he said he never seen anything. And even talking to his dad, he ain't seen nothing like it either. So it's just like, I mean, the team was beat up. The team was down. The team was sad. But it really didn't hit as hard as it's supposed to, if that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, we knew, when we lost both our quarterbacks, it's like, what are we going to do? It's kind of like you really don't have a chance at this point. I mean, it hurt for sure, but I wish we took one more quarterback into that game, and it probably would have been a different outcome.
That was about the quarterbacks there. We'll get the sound about him calling Bradbury's trash, but he also said, we won by double digits had we had Brock Purdy.
I mean, we can just go back to first quarter, first half. Just look how well our defense was actually playing.
That's a great point.
Keeping Jalen in the pocket, which he doesn't like to do at all. You can just see, I mean, 4th and 6, you grant them a catch, and you know it's not a catch on 4th down. And that caused them to get down there at that point. I mean, then kind of reflect after that, Brock fumble. I mean, they're right there at the 20, 25-yard line. I mean, all right, that's points right there. And then just kind of the amount of penalties that was just like, it was just outrageous. What a coincidence again. We turned the ball over right there again, and it's 21-7. So the offense wasn't doing anything to be, like, literally nothing.
Nothing.
Our defense was doing as what they were supposed to, and I felt like if Brock was in and our quarterback and how our offense moves, I mean, I don't think it would have been close, if that makes sense.
So what were the final, when you say it wouldn't have been close, like you think you could have beat them by double digits?
Yeah, like we beat everybody else.
Yeah, my God. Now, some people might think that, that sounds like sour grapes.
It's not sour. It's not sour grapes at all.
It's confidence.
It's just, this is what I see every day.
Reality.
I mean, yeah, come on, man. I mean, I'm not salty at all. I just speak facts,
If I was on the other side, right, and I was a Philadelphia fan or a Philadelphia player, I would understand the bitter, like, they are being salty. Because, again, from the 49er perspective of guys like Deebo Samuel, hey, we were robbed of an opportunity to go mano-a-mano. And the Philadelphia fans are saying, yeah, because we knocked your guy out, and that's football. But can we all acknowledge it was kind of an odd football season? The Niners didn't lose just one quarter. They lost 3. So they were going into an NFC Championship game literally with their third-string quarterback to begin with. This year, Brock is their starter. So the entire depth chart is different. You went in with Josh Johnson. You signed Josh Johnson in Week 15. Week 15. It was a very weird circumstance. That being said, I understand both points of view. I really do. Like, the Niners feel like they were robbed.
Exactly.
And the Eagle fans are like, but we caused you to be robbed because we knocked out your quarterback. I understand both sides. But I also want to say, like, if you watch that game back, which I did yesterday because I'm a sick person, the Eagles were not flinching on any play action because they knew Josh Johnson couldn't beat them downfield.
No
if
doubt.
you watch that game, it was a hell of a lot closer than the scoreboard shows.
Well, it did in the first half. It did. It was 7-7, and Jimmy Ward got called for pass interference on 3rd and 7, which was very questionable on A.J. Brown when you think about what happened on that slant route. It was within the 5-yard box. They punt, and then next thing you know, it's all in popping. 14-7, 21-7 after the fumble. And you know what? You didn't, and I kept saying in the seat, Josh Johnson. Like, I knew. Once Josh Johnson came into the game, that team is too good. But they caused you. Like the New York Giants, when they beat the Niners 49-3 in the divisional round game, they knocked out Joe Montana. Nobody's apologizing for that. No. They knocked out Joe Montana in the 1990 NFC title game. That's what happens in football. That's what happens when you go against big, bad defensive linemen. And so when I look at this football game, sure, Debo's going to talk that talk. Hassan Reddick, though, could have a bigger impact on this football game because he gets after Brock Purdy. And this offensive line, we need to see how they hold up. It gets a dominant pass rush in the Philadelphia Eagles. Also, the front four of the 49ers, you got to get after Jalen. They got to get after Jalen Hurts. So this trade for Chase Young, this is where I want to see Chase Young thrive. Well, and Chase Young quietly, I don't know if I see much of 92 on Thanksgiving night.
Well, I watched that game back multiple times, and I'll just say this. The raw data speaks for itself. The 49ers have 15 sacks in 3 games since acquiring Chase Young. You want to say it's coincidence? You want to say it's a byproduct? I think it's a little bit of both because you're seeing, and Chris Collinsworth spoke to this on Thursday night, you're seeing single coverage across the board, and the Niners did a great job disguising some of their looks pre- and post-snap. You saw Fred Warner with a delayed blitz.
No doubt.
You saw Drake Greenlaw with a delayed blitz. I think I'm seeing the best version of Hargrave thus far in a 49er uniform, and quietly, Nick Bosa looks like Nick Bosa.
Well, Nick
I know
Bosa's
that
back.
they were going up against a backup tackle for the majority of that game because Jason Peters went out, midway through with like his whole body being injured. But like Bosa looks like he is back.
He does look like he's back. He's playing at a high level. This defensive line was 6 sacks Thursday night against the Seattle Seahawks. They got after Geno Smith, and they're going to have to get after Jalen Hurts. these wide receivers that the Eagles have and Jalen Hurts, they got the timing routes down, the slant and goes, the comeback routes, the power slants, the comeback routes, deep passes. They got no problem taking shots down the football field. So you got to get this pass rush going here. And, oh, by the way, this is where Fred Warner, this DPOY campaign comes into play. Because once Jalen Hurts gets out of that pocket, you got a couple linebackers here who can scrape them up sideline to sideline. So that's a big key in this football game. But when it comes to the trash talk, here's Hassan Reddick yesterday on Sports Radio, or actually Sunday evening, Sports Radio 94 WIP.
Yeah.
You know, as this season been going on, not much. Talk is cheap. You know, they get to come back in the link. There was a lot of boo-hoos last year, a lot of crying, a lot of what if, a lot of this, a lot of that. They get a chance to come back in here, line that up and prove it again.
Line it up and prove it again.
I'm going to be real. As a competitor, I kind of love what he just said right there. He's right. There was a lot of crying and a lot of whining from Niner fans and Niner players.
Well,
and my whole thing is like, you better show up on Sunday. And I expect you to show up on Sunday.
Well, I know they'll show up, but will they win the football game is the question. I'm not worried about these guys showing up. They show up a lot. They do. They showed up in a lot of big games. Now, will they win this game? Who knows?
Well, there are two elements to this game that I think the 49ers have improved since last year. First element, I think they are a better secondary in general today than they were at the end of last year. Putting Ambry Thomas on the field, he has made play after play in the last couple of weeks. Moving Diamond Lenore to the slot was a game changer for this team. They're quicker, they're faster, they're hitting better. And Charvarius Ward is coming off the best game of his 49er career. He was following DK Metcalf for the first time in his whole
No, he did it last year, Thursday night. This year.
They said they have not done it at all.
They had not done it this year.
The entirety of the year.
But he did it last year on Thursday night in the hat and T-shirt game, and he shut down DK.
He looked phenomenal. They said that they only had the 3 days rest, and Steve Wilkes and Kyle Shanahan went to him in warm-up and said, what do you think about marking up DK the entire day? He might have to do that against A.J. Brown. Did you watch A.J. Brown's game over the weekend? I know you did. A.J. Brown didn't have the greatest of games.
Well, listen.
He's going to bounce back.
Well, I thought he would bounce back last week. In the last 8 quarters, A.J. Brown only has 4 catches for 35 yards because teams are doubling him.
Yes.
Now, but if you double him, now you leave Devontae Smith on the other side. And Devontae Smith
scares me.
Is a problem. Now, he's a problem. He makes big-time plays. And he made the biggest play in the NFC title game where it wasn't really a catch. But he has his hands around the football. He gets up and he tells the Eagles, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hike it, hike it, hike it. And that's where Shanahan has to be on point. Challenge anything close in this football game. Because the Eagles at home, they're undefeated, and they will get the benefit of the doubt. They will get the benefit of the calls. So you got to be on point. And that's where Shanahan, if I'm looking at anybody in a big game, I'm not worried about Deebo Samuel showing up. I'm not worried about Nick Bosa showing up. I'm worried about Kyle Shanahan and where his head is at when it comes to calling the football game. Because in these big games, I got the Super Bowl 54. And we can go back and revisit that if you want to. But Shanahan coached not to lose, in my opinion. He coached not to lose. He coached scared. All right? The NFC title game in 2021 against the LA Rams. We talk about it all the time. Not going for it on 4th and 2. You coached a little timid. You coached a little scared. I don't care who your quarterback is. You coach scared in that football